You don't have to wait for the beginning of every year to set your goals. We're obviously going to talk about today how to maintain them, but you can start at any point. Success itself, the way you see success, it shouldn't be an event that can be completed. You should look at success and that journey instead, as opposed to just, okay, I've hit this target. I'm successful.
If I'm just constantly fixed, I want to lose 10 kilos. When I lose 10 kilos, I'll be happy. I'll be healthy. I'll be fit. I'm just constantly focused on the goal. I'm going to not focus on the process of getting to the 10 kilo loss. And what happens is you're just too focused on the, when I get this, I'll be this.
Yeah. Once you hit it, it's like, what's now? Tasha this morning said Warren Buffett, and I've just been saying that all day. Warren Buffett. It's not Warren Buffett. You can do anything, but not everything.
Welcome to the Marketing Mentors podcast, brought to you by Red Pandas Digital. And how exciting, Linda! I'm so over the moon. It's
so
our
pumped.
First episode back for 2024, and there is a lot we want to talk about. But first, can you repeat what you just said?
Yeah. So really cool quote that says you can do anything, but not everything. And of course, that is so broad, but so genius at the same time. But specifically today, we are talking about, it's a new year. Everyone should have, or if you haven't already, do it, set goals. And we're going to talk about that, but we're going to talk about it a little bit more tactically today because it's very easy to set a goal, but we want to talk about how we're really trying to stay focused and stick to those goals. And part of that is making sure that you're not trying to do everything, even though you can, and staying focused on certain goals that you set.
Yeah, I love that. I know, personally, I've set my goals. And like you said, you haven't done it yet. This is being recorded on the 25th of Jan. I don't know when it's going to go live, but by the time it's live, you should 100% well and truly have set your goals. And if you haven't, and you're listening to this, and you're thinking, oh my God, I should set my goals, set your goals right now. Get your pen and paper out, or your notebook, or whatever it is, or your note on your phone, and listen to what Linda's going to share, because she's going to take us through a very quick process of how you can set some goals for yourself. If you're listening to it and you're like, oh, I'm driving and I can't do it right now, that's fine. Come back to this later when you get home and you've got a moment to do this, because this is going to be really valuable stuff that Linda's going to share.
And we also don't want you to feel bad if you haven't set your goals.
No, you should feel bad.
You don't have to wait. You don't have to wait for the beginning of every year to set your goals. We're obviously going to talk about today how to maintain them, but you can start at any point. Yeah. You can start quarterly, you can start every 6 months, or you can start the beginning of a new week. You don't have to start at the beginning of the year.
You're right. You know, it's like that people say, oh, my diet starts on Monday. No. It starts the next time you put food in your mouth. Make the right choice.
I need you when I say that.
Yeah. Monday. Yeah. No. Next choice, next meal. So with that said, like Linda said, setting goals, we're not actually going to spend too much more time after what Linda shares on how to set goals, because like you said earlier, the key today is going to be not getting distracted this year. How do we stay focused on those goals that you're going to help us figure out how to set? And how do we measure them? How do we succeed them? How do we reflect on them? So there's going to be some really cool tips in this talk that I'm really excited to talk to you about. But with that said, Linda, how do we set these goals?
Yeah, so I set my goals slightly differently to what I'm going to share, because what I'm going to share, I think it's so powerful. And we're actually going to do this as a business together very, very soon. So it's really exciting, and I want to share that framework. For me personally, the way I set my goals is actually used a workbook, and I'm very happy to link it as a resource to this podcast. And it's a resource by Chris Ma, who is an absolutely genius, intelligent coach. And he has a workbook on how to set goals. So for me personally, that's how I did it this year. And I went through that workbook, which was awesome. I'm keen to hear, T, how you did yours as well. Beautiful. Yep. Yeah. Awesome resource. But something I want to share today is it's very similar to that. If you've seen the 3-step process by Warren Tasha, you nearly got me. Tasha this morning said Warren Buffett, and I've just been saying that all day. Warren Buffett. It's not Warren Buffett.
I love a good buffet. All right.
Oh my God, anything to do with food for us.
Warren Buffett.
But there is a 3-step process he has, and something that I've heard from a business owner, Stefan Bertram, owns a real estate agency called Pello. Something that they did, which I thought was just so incredible, is what I recommend you do: get a pen and paper, sit down, write down a list of 50 goals you have. 50.
That's a lot.
It's so much. And I'm sure once you're going through it, you're going to have that same feeling that a lot of people do when they do it. And that's once you start to hit that like 30, 40 mark, you're going to have to start getting really, really, you're going to have to dig really, really deep and find a way to complete those 50 goals. And there's a reason for that, because it allows you to tap into this creative mindset to be able to come up with 50 goals. And these goals can be anything. They can be small, tactical daily goals, or they can be these big, hairy, audacious goals that you want to see sometime in your lifetime that might not happen, but they're a goal that you would love to write down.
Yeah.
So write down 50 goals. From there, what you want to do is you want to go through every single goal individually and give them a number, either 1, 3, 5, or 10, and that's years. So I want to complete this goal in either 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, or 10 years.
Okay.
And from there, you start to really then prioritize timelines, which is important, because without a timeline, you have no goal.
Yep.
And what we're going to be talking about today is more about that short-term goal. We're going to talk about that 1 year goal and how to break that down and how to stay focused. But if you haven't done your goal setting yet, I recommend to do that exercise because it's awesome. And we're going to be doing it collectively as a business really soon.
Really, really like that idea. And like when you shared that with me, it reminded me of last year when I went to Tony Robbins, and he made us do something really, really similar.
Yeah.
He sat us down, we had a workbook, and he's like, write down like 50 or 60. It was a big piece of paper.
Yeah.
And I remember in the process, he gave us like 7 minutes to do it as well. So it was a decent amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, I want you to fill the paper. There should be no blank space.
Wow.
Fill it up. And I was like, what am I writing? And I did. I wrote some really random stuff. And then I wrote some, there's goals in the forefront, your frontal cortex.
Yeah.
That you want. Like, I know I want to buy a house, right?
Yeah.
But then there's goals in the back of your head that you haven't even really, like, they've been a fleeting thought at one point in your life that you've never really thought of until that moment. So I love that you said 50. Don't cut yourself short. Commit to the 50. And then the next step, like Linda said, is number them 1, 3, 5, and 10. Those are indicative of years.
Yeah.
So 1 is I want to get this done in a year, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Awesome. So we've got our 1 year goals. We know what they are. If you need to break them down a little bit further, I like to work in quarters personally. Mm-hmm. So I've looked at my 1 year goals and then I kind of break them down into, okay, cool. Which ones can I focus on, over the next 3 months? Which ones are a little bit more attainable? And then, I personally use like a 3/4 planner in my house.
Yeah.
And I have my goals. I don't have my goals written down, but I have them typed on my desktop.
Okay.
So I can see them. I can see them right now if I want to pull them up, type of thing.
Yeah.
So I think on that point, we want to help you learn how to focus on those year ahead goals and some of the really little tactics, right? I just mentioned a few. Put them somewhere visually that you're going to see all the time, whether it's on a whiteboard, on your desktop, your screensaver. With iPhones, you can have multiple screensavers now. Maybe it's an iWatch background
that's a good idea.
or something.
Yeah.
Just put it somewhere where you're going to see it often, because the more you see it, obviously it's like that vision exercise.
Reinforcement.
Yeah, it's reinforcement. You're like, oh yeah, cool. That's what I'm working towards.
Yeah.
And then the other things that you can use are like timed reminders or apps, or if you're breaking down those year-long goals.
Yeah. Just
break them down to a point where you're like, okay, cool. I know that I need to do X, Y, Z every day. A really good example is you want to read a book every month. Mm-hmm. That's actually a goal for me. Not one, but I think I'm focusing on 2 this year.
Yeah.
2 physical books, 1 audio book. So I'm putting it out there. So far I'm doing okay for this month.
Yeah.
But what I've done with my books is I've flicked through at the beginning of the month, flicked through all of the pages, count them, 200, divide them by how many days there are in the month.
Love that.
And then I know every day this is my quota for how many pages I need to read to achieve the goal of reading a book per month. Yeah. And like it's working. It's working really, really well. Mm-hmm. It's similar to like if your goal is like a weight loss thing, you weigh yourself every single day. So this is this idea of, okay, I know what my big goals are, and then what are the things I can do every day that are just little tiny tasks helping me work towards those.
I really like that.
Bigger things.
Yeah. I like the idea of breaking down something quantitative so that way you can really track it. And that's what we're kind of going into here in terms of like how to stay focused and how to stay on top of it. Measure your results. And that's what Tasha's talking about here.
That's great for stuff like read a book, lose some weight.
Yeah.
Build a house, whatever. Like it's really, those are things I can touch and feel, tangible goals.
Yeah.
What about, Linda, for like soft skills?
Well, So what we're talking about here, like for example, is so the hard goal, let's call it that, is like you said, it's reading 2 books a month, right?
Yeah.
And then getting a book, seeing the total pages, breaking down those pages per day.
Easy.
But let's say you've got a goal like I want to, what's something more qualitative? I want to reflect certain values. I want to hold myself to these values this year.
I want to be a truthful person. I want to be an honest person.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's a little bit harder, right?
100%.
It's not quantitative. So how do you do it?
What are you going to do?
Yeah.
Don't tell lies. Like,
yeah.
Okay, great.
But how do you measure that?
Yeah,
because that's the thing here. Without feedback, your focus fades,
100%.
right? So
that's really good. Without feedback, your focus fades.
Yeah.
Very good.
So feedback, okay, on how you want to hold yourself to a certain value set, for example. Something that I read recently from Joe Dispenza, which I thought was really, really cool, was, and it's nothing groundbreaking, but do we all do it? Probably not. Reflection. So let's say, for values, you want to try and respond to things in a more positive light, right? At the end of the day, think about how you reacted to every scenario in your day and whether you reacted positively or negatively. What was the first thought that came in your mind when that scenario happened, or when you got that email from that person that you don't really like? How did you react to it? And making sure that you allow time at the end of every day to reflect is a way that you can still measure your success on these skills that aren't quantitative, so to speak.
That's amazing. That's actually such an undervalued, underused, underpowered tool. And all of the great, thinkers, if you will, of our time have spoken about this idea of journaling. Yeah. And reflection.
Yeah.
And that's actually one of my goals as well. Another one for this year. We're just bringing you all my goals.
No, I love it.
I'm trying to commit to journaling 3 times a week. So last year I wanted to do it every single day. It didn't actually, I don't think I journaled once for myself. I journal I do journal entries for Zoe, who's my daughter. I write to her every month, roughly.
I love that.
It's very cute, yes. Because God forbid, if I have another child, this other child is not going to get half the crap I do for Zoe. I know, and that's on, that's for the record, right? Sorry. But for myself, I wasn't journaling. It was like my head was like, I'm going to journal. But
we've all gone through that.
Exactly.
Last year, I know I wrote down I want to go to the gym 7 days a week. It did not happen. Yeah. So this year I've said 4. Yeah. I'm very happy if I go to the gym 4 days a week. Yeah. On the reverse, though, for me, meditating is something that I practice daily. So it's like we're all the same, right?
Yeah, 100%.
I think it's okay to regress and just sometimes keep your goal keep it to something that's more realistic for you.
More achievable.
Because you have a list of them.
100%.
Yeah.
So this idea of journaling, which, I'm, again, doing okay with so far. Again, it's just January. But it's reflecting on the day that went on or reflecting on the day that's coming. So I like to do it either beginning or end of the day personally. And to Linda's point, it's actually quite hard. If you can just write the things that happen during the day, but we start with that. Yeah. If you've never journaled before, you can start with that. But if, like Linda said, one of your goals is a bit like more of a softer goal, or it's a softer skill, like I want to be a more honest person, I want to be a more positive person, that is a bit harder to measure. And that's where reflection comes in place. And Linda, what your example you gave is actually so perfect. Think back on the moments that happened during the day, and how you reacted reacted to them. And was it the reaction that you were happy with? Are you proud of that reaction? And
how could you have handled it differently?
Exactly.
I think that's part of managing that as well when it comes to those soft skills, if you will, and goals that are related to that. Yeah. The only way that you're going to be able to kind of move through that and progress through that is not only reflecting, but then spending time to sit there and think, okay, how could I have handled that differently, and visualizing that, because that then trains you for the next day and the next day after that. And then if you keep practicing that daily or whatever your goal is, you'll slowly but surely achieve it.
And it becomes natural. It becomes a habit. That's the other thing. We didn't mention at the beginning of this podcast, but today's podcast was inspired by an article I read recently by James Clear, who is the author of Atomic Habits. And he's got heaps of resources. I'll also link to this. And it was just the idea of how to stay focused, how to maintain your focus. So you're right?
Yep.
Yeah, you still look good. It's fine.
Always can count on you for putting me in the grog.
Just checking yourself out. She's fine. Everyone, she looks great.
Jesus. It's good to be back.
It is good to be back.
You humble me.
Yeah, you're welcome. With that said, check out those resources. I think the key here is if your goal is to improve a softer skill, use your journaling and reflection and make it a habit, turn it into a habit. And then not only is it a daily habit, it actually becomes a minute habit and a thing habit. Like even like right now, your brain is we're talking to each other, but we might also, another part of our brain is thinking, well, how could I have handled this conversation better? How could I have not drawn attention to how good Linda looks?
How can I not stop touching my hair while Tasha's talking?
There you go. See? Lots of stuff. You become aware of things, right? When you like draw attention to the elephant in the room, even whatever it is, you become aware of it. Once you're aware of something, you can then start working on it. So that's the whole idea of the daily reflection, reviewing yourself, reflecting on your values. Very, very strong tool. If you're not doing it, just even if you gave yourself, go buy a journal and just do your first entry and be like, yep, cool. I've done my first entry and I'm going to work on journaling this year. However random it is, that's fine. Start somewhere.
Yeah.
The key is to start.
Depending on your goal as well, if it's really specific, then this advice might not be very good. But if your goal is a little bit more general and vague with your journaling as well, you can, if you're not sure where to start, if you just have a paper in front of you and you're like, oh my God, where do I begin? You can buy like prompted journals.
Yes, like gratitude diaries.
That ask you specific questions. It's actually a really great way to get into journaling because there's two types, right? Writing your thoughts and then prompted questions. They're very different types of journaling and gratitude, right? So maybe lean towards that if you're not sure where to start yet.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. I don't think I'd like those. I feel like they'd like stunt my creativity. And I'm like, don't tell me what to write.
Really? Oh, right. I needed it at the beginning.
Okay, fair
enough.
Yeah,
I did.
To be fair, I've been journaling my whole life.
Yeah.
Just in different shapes and forms. Like I have journals from when I was like.
You're good.
When I was in year 6.
Right away.
The shit I used to write when I was a kid. Oh my God,
don't even.
I should bring it in.
I can't bring
And then we should
mine
do
in.
some entries on like one of our episodes.
Man.
It'll be like the journal of year 6
Mine was
Tasha.
all about friends and boys.
Pretty much, yeah. Yep, that's literally all it was.
I lived a really exciting primary school life.
Mine said My Dumb Diary. Did you remember that?
Wow.
Yeah, it was like it was pink.
No.
It used to be lots of shit about my sister. Anyway, sorry.
Oh my God.
Love you. Tangent. Okay, we have one more thing we want to mention on this whole goals, staying focused. All of it. So, we say this a lot at Red Pandas, like for everything. And it's like, remove the outcome. Now, this might be
detached from the outcome.
Yeah. This might be very controversial to what we said earlier. It's contradictory. Sorry, not controversial. Contradictory because we just said goals, set your goals. And now we're saying, okay, now don't focus on your goals. And just focus on the process. So there's a reason here, right? I want a really tangible goal. I want to lose 10 kilos. If I'm just constantly fixed, I want to lose 10 kilos. When I lose 10 kilos, I'll be happy. I'll be healthy. I'll be fit. I'm just constantly focused on the goal.
Yeah.
I'm going to not focus on the process of getting to the 10 kilo loss. And what happens is you're just too focused on when I get this, I'll be this. And then
once you hit it, it's like, what's now?
You're right. Yeah. Two things can happen. You get there. What's now? I'm depressed. It's not what I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
Or you never get there because you're too focused on trying to get there that you don't break it down and just focus on the process.
Yeah.
So James Clear talks about, and I think everyone talks about it, outcome removed, focus on the process. Focusing on outcomes and goals is our natural tendency.
Yeah.
But focusing on the process leads to more results long term.
Yeah, I love that. You hear about, I'm sure we'll be there one day, but you hear about these people that, buy their dream house and, hit a certain amount of, wealth and, they think that once they hit that, they're going to be happy and, successful, but they hit it and then they're more depressed and lonely and whatever than ever, right? So what we're saying here is like success itself, the way you see success, it shouldn't be a event that can be completed. That's not what success should be like. You should look at success and that journey instead, as opposed to just, okay, I've hit this target. Yeah. I'm successful now. No, it shouldn't work that way.
It's the journey.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Well, Linda, I want to try this new thing for our podcast this year. I don't know if it's going to work. But one thing. We always do a one thing with our clients, right? Like we do a one thing at the end of the podcast. We've just talked about a bunch of stuff. We're on our own learning journeys as well. Things that we're sharing with you, we may have only learned like in the last couple of hours. I'm joking. We've learned them for a long time. But I mean as in like we are all learning always.
Yeah.
So I would love to us, as we're talking, maybe there's one thing you say or I say that, we can share with our listeners. And I would encourage everyone that's listening to use this tip for everything you do. take one thing away. Just know what's the one thing. After this conversation, what's the one thing that's standing out, right? So I'll start because you're looking like you have no idea what you want to say.
You got yours.
There has to be one. Do you know what I mean? It's just like 1, 1, 1. For me, it's got to be the 1, 3, 5, and 10.
Okay.
Right? I really like the 1, 3, 5, and 10. I'd heard of the write down your 50 goals. I'd heard of that.
Yeah.
But then Tony Robbins makes you do some weird shit once you do that. So it definitely wasn't that.
Yeah, okay.
1, 3, 5, and 10 seems really easy to do. So I'm going to go and do my 50 goals.
Yeah.
Personal. The career ones, I'll do it another time. But this is my personal. Career personal. They're probably
you might
whoosh. Yeah.
Bring them together.
I will.
It's a lot.
Yeah, I'll do that. You have to, right? I don't have 50 personal goals. Wake up.
Well, maybe now you need to
Get
do 50
through the
personal
week.
goals.
Wash hair.
I feel like you need to separate them now and just do 100.
Don't do those goals. They were bad examples. 1, 3, 5, and 10. That's my takeaway.
Okay. I think mine is the feedback component. So you need feedback. Otherwise, your focus deteriorates. That's my feedback, I think. Sorry, my one thing. Yep. The reason being is because I feel like last year when I did set my goals, I obviously reviewed them at the end of the year. And there were some that I didn't hit, which is normal. And we all, we're
interest
not
rates, man. Interest rates. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. But yeah, I feel like I wasn't reviewing them enough.
Yeah.
So I think it's important to keep giving yourself that feedback.
That's great. Yeah. I love that. You guys do the same thing. After you've listened to this, talk to yourself out loud. Talk to yourself out loud. You have to talk to yourself out loud.
Or have an accountability buddy. We didn't talk about that, but my partner is mine. So I talk to him about my goals.
Oh, that's really nice.
Yeah.
I'm
sure you would do the same.
I try. Yeah.
Okay.
Doesn't quite land. He's like, oh, yeah.
What's for dinner?
Can we watch the soccer now? No, he's good. But you're right, yeah, spot on. What's your one thing? Go and tell it your accountability buddy. It could be your boyfriend, girlfriend, best friend, gender neutral friend. Doesn't matter what it is. Just let them know.
This was really fun.
Yeah.
Good to be back. Bye.